Hello out there. We're on the air. Good evening, Seattle, Washington, New York City, Detroit, Toronto, Ottawa, even Timmins, Ontario. Good evening to those of you in Timmins, Ontario. Welcome to the Black Aces podcast, episode number 3. We are set. We are ready to go. After our usual introduction, here is the hockey song.
Hello out there, we're on the air. It's hockey night tonight. Tension grows, the whistle blows, and the puck goes down the ice. The goalie jumps and the players bump. Fans all go insane. Someone roars, body scores at the good old hockey game. Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game. Second period, where players dash with skates that flash. The home team trails behind, but they grab the puck and go bursting up. They're down across the line. They storm the crease like bumblebees, travel like a burning flame. We see them slide the puck inside. It's a 1-1 hockey game. Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game. Third period, last game in the playoffs too. Oh, take beware, the hockey players face off down the rink, and the Stanley Cup is all filled up for the champs to win the drink. Now the final flick of the hockey stick and the one gigantic screen. The puck is in, the home team wins the good old hockey game. Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game. The good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game.
Yes, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name, and we are just over a week away from opening face-off. Again, welcome in, guys, to the Black Aces NHL podcast. Let's get started. Let's bring in the panel. As always, here's a guy that never met a coffee he didn't like. From Edmonton, Alberta, we have Old Man Fred, the youngest individual on the panel, whose first words, I believe, were Jordan Eberle. We've got Finn, and coming from Montreal, Quebec, we have a guy that, you know, just as a fantasy hockey guru, and he's known for that in the fantasy hockey circles. We have Lanky Frank. How are you guys doing tonight? What's going on?
That's just one.
All right. Well, we've got lots to cover. We've got lots to go through, and the audience will be building up. I hear there's going to be a few more on the way, and let's get on to it. As always, we always kind of start with looking at our favorite logo from some of the hockey teams currently and maybe of the past. Last week, we looked at the Boston Bruins, and this one is for Finn, because Finn's the youngest guy here. Old Man Fred and Lanky Frank will remember this. Back in 1970, when the Buffalo Sabres and the Vancouver Canucks were expansion teams, both came into the league at the very same time, and the lottery was held for the first pick. Montreal, which used to have the rights to the Quebec prospects, this was the first year they didn't have that with the expansion teams, and it came down to basically a roulette wheel. And Buffalo, Vancouver, both on this roulette wheel. And something I did not know, that there was a little bit of controversy in this draft pick. Originally, it was awarded to Vancouver. And the reason why is that on this roulette wheel, slots numbers 2 to 6, if it landed there, the Canucks would win. And slots 7 to 12, it would be for the Buffalo Sabres. So back at that time, the president, Clarence Campbell, did the honors, spun the roulette wheel, and announced that the wheel had stopped on number 1 and announced that the Canucks had won the lottery. And things went on. And then all of a sudden, there was someone from the Sabres, the head coach and general manager, Punch Imlach, said, wait a minute, Clarence, there is no number 1 on the board, on the wheel. And so Clarence Campbell went back and looked at the wheel, and he mistakenly said 1 when it landed on number 11, which in that case gave the pick to the Buffalo Sabres. And the rest is history. How different that Vancouver Canucks team, the projection, would have went if the if Gilbert would have went to Vancouver. That French connection line may never have been seen in the NHL. So Frank, you're from Montreal. You're very familiar with the French connection. What were your memories of Gilbert Perreault?
They weren't very good. So, I mean, the team. So all I remember were Flyers, Boston. I remember Toronto because it was a regional rivalry and Mike Palmetier had a cool name. I loved his last name. But I'm serious, Buffalo, I barely remember. They barely register in my memory. And for this thing, I just want to say this is like the OG Oscar mess up that happened a few years ago. The winner is oops. So I didn't know this had happened. So this is the OG. But yeah, I don't remember. I remember all the goals and that they were dominant, but Habs and Sabres were not a thing. So it didn't register in my memories. I remember Eddie Cheevers, Mike Palmetier, all these good teams, but not the Sabres, unfortunately. Sorry, Sabres fans.
And I'd like just to welcome in Dr. Dynastic from OOTP. Thank you for bringing in a crew here over to watch the Black Aces NHL podcast. Welcome in, everyone. We are talking about the guffaw, the almost tragic mistake that happened back in 1970 when Vancouver and Buffalo came into the league and a wheel, go figure, a wheel was spun to see who would get the first overall pick. And the NHL president at the time, Clarence Campbell, announced that the Canucks would get the pick because he thought it landed on 1. But apparently his eyesight was bad because Buffalo pointed out that, Mr. President, that's not a 1, that's an 11. And in that case, the pick went to Buffalo. Eric, I know you're a little younger to remember, Gilbert when he came into the league, but obviously you grew up watching him, one of the best players of his generation. What do you remember about Gilbert Perreault?
I remember he stands out quite a bit when they were playing the Islanders, when the Islanders were doing the dynasty. And they were one of the teams the Islanders defeated probably around 80, 81. And I also remember Gilbert Perreault as one of the great contributors to Team Canada, Canada Cup 76. I remember him there. Buffalo, another early name that stands out to me, and certainly the French connection is there. But I also remember Danny Gare was a fan of Danny Gare, and that's a name from the past. And finally, the Buffalo memory that stands out is the fog. I remember it was a Stanley Cup final, I think, between the Flyers and Buffalo, and the ice conditions were quite poor, and it might have been the finals. I'm not sure on that. But anyway, I remember the fog. They're skating around, and I don't know how anybody could see the puck because you couldn't see their skates, let alone the puck. And so that stands out as well. So Buffalo getting close again, as they did years later when they got ripped off, and Dallas, I think, got the cup. But poor Buffalo, yeah, they're kind of the hard knocks kind of people. But obviously this was very interesting. I didn't know this little story. They certainly didn't start that way. Well, maybe they did, but then it got corrected. And Clarence Campbell, the thing I remember about Clarence Campbell is he was a very old guy who actually attended my high school in Edmonton. So there you go, Clarence Campbell.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what a small world. Yeah, the mistakes, and these are just the mistakes that we eventually find out. Who knows what kind of mistakes have taken place that never were revealed in the NHL. Well, that brings us to, again, choosing what we thought was the best overall Buffalo logo. Now, they haven't been in the league for, like the original six, but they've been here since 1970. And we can see the different iterations of the logo. And chat, if you're in the chat and you're a hockey fan, which of the Buffalo logos was your favorite? Now, obviously, the 1970 and then the two most recent ones are very similar to each other. Maybe just a little, harder edging, a little different color of blue or a gold or a yellow. But we'll start with Ryan. We haven't heard from you yet, Ryan. Which of these logos do you prefer as the Buffalo main logo?
You weren't going to ask me about what I remember from Mr. Pearl. So, remember it like yesterday. No, I like the 96 to 2006. They kind of look exactly the same, but I like that style of crest there with no. Yeah, that's one there.
This one here?
I really like that one. The other one kind of looks like a Chargers crest for NFL there. But no, I like this one. It's unique.
All right. And again, that's kind of when you started watching hockey is, in the early 2000s as well. So maybe it has a little bit more meaning to you. Frank, how about you? Which of the Buffalo logos is your favorite?
There's basically 1, 2, 3 because everything looks the same. There's just color variation, so I don't get it. It's like like even 96, 99, it looks exactly the same as the other one, so I don't get it.
Yeah.
2010, 20 is just darker than the present, but the present is the same as 70, 96.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, did you take 96, 2006?
Sure.
Yeah.
Is that what you took? Okay, I'll take 90. I'll take the other one. Stop moving. I'll take 99. I'll take 96 to 99, which is the same as Ryan, but different years. For the same reason as him, it looks pretty cool. I don't know why they left that, but a little bit more originality than two sabers and a buffalo. I guess it's running or whatever. So just to be different.
It's got the deeper red around it, Frank. That's the big difference there. A little bit more red around it. Eric, how about you? Which of the Buffalo logos do you prefer?
Clearing on the 96 to 99 one. I want to see that one. Sorry. Let's see it.
This one?
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Eh? Look at that darker red or whatever. Yeah, for sure. You know what? I am generally a traditionalist, so obviously the 71 should stand out. But I really didn't mind the kind of angry buffalo that they went through there for about 10 years, it appears, with subtle changes. And I like that little red streak. I think there's that story of like red is a very exciting color. So yeah, I prefer the 96 to 99. But
I think we can all agree the ugliest one is 2006, 2010.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is the worst one. That is the one that I remember those jerseys when they came out, and they did kind of look cool at first, but yeah, no, I'm a traditionalist as well. I like this one here. You
could Photoshop that one that we all dislike. And make it kind of like a toupee or something. Like it looks like somebody's head should be underneath it. It's just it's awful. It's just an awful.
All right, Photoshop will be on that, and maybe we can put it on all of our faces
There we
for a
go.
future episode.
There we go.
Okay, so yeah, a lot of teams don't have a lot of variation in logos, and this is a case here where Buffalo really had 3 different ones since 1970, which is kind of amazing considering how a lot of teams have changed their logo quite a bit. But yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to look at the Buffalo logos. But now we're going to go on and talk hockey, current hockey, and of course. You get the first flex here because your Montreal Canadiens defeated Toronto tonight, 5-4 in overtime. How do you feel, Frank?
It's fun because Matthews was there, Nylander was there, Marner was there, Tavares was there, Samsonov was there. So they had their A lineup. They sent us shit to Montreal for Friday and Saturday. And they had the A lineup in, and we scored with less than a minute and then 30 seconds of overtime. So here's one, and here's the other for fucking Toronto. Preseason or not, it's always nice to beat the A team.
All right, and if you're new to the chat, welcome Frank. Frank from Lanky Frank from Montreal, Quebec, and those Quebecers, they communicate in a little different way. Sometimes they're a little more using their body language and when they communicate.
A lot of hand signals.
A lot of hand signals. Yeah, a lot of hand signals. So again, welcome in everyone. Again, there will be a contest, a giveaway, or at least to get your name in a giveaway a little bit later. That is hockey themed. Not gonna win anything tonight, but you'll get entered into a contest that we'll talk about a little bit later. So yes, Montreal winning 5-4. We're starting to get to the preseason point now where a lot more regulars are starting to get into the lineup. They're whittling away. They're sending players down.
Except in Boston. Did you see their crappy lineup tonight? And that's one of the reasons is that team has no prospects because they went for Stanley Cups for years, and that happens. It happens with all the good teams. So they have no race for a roster spot. So, like, we're a week away from preseason, and this is what they're making. They're playing against the Flyers. It's like, but it's not for a spot. It's just, here's a little bonus for you. You get NHL time, you prospects that you'll never play in the NHL. But this is a pathetic lineup a week out. Poor fans in Philadelphia. I think they have one prospect that maybe has a chance to have an impact. But this, when I saw the lineup, I went, wow. Like Glenn said, usually we get, at this point, there's 2 or 3 games left. You start getting more of complete lines, but Boston said, why? We know who are 23 or 22 or 21 because there's one team that announced today they're only going to have 21 because of cap reasons. So who knows? But they know who they are. There's no race, and that's who they sent. So whatever. Yeah. It's their pick. But poor fans.
Like Charlie Coyle, Jake DeBrusk, and Swayman were kind of the only really notable names. Maybe
the defenseman Lindholm was also there, so that's it.
Oh, Lindholm as well. Yeah,
and that was it. So, but the other big news today was the signing of Zegras finally.
Yes.
Don't understand Verbeek, right? Is the GM there? I don't know what kind of power trip he was on, but he's an idiot. Everybody knew it would be around 6. He plays hardball to give him $575 for 3 years. I don't get it. It's like the guy missed all of camp for nothing, basically. So I don't understand these. They had agreed 3 or 4 years. They were far apart on dollars. They were offering 4. They went up to 575. Like, why not just go to 575 right off the bat? I hate this. It's the same thing with the defenseman Drysdale. He's still not in camp, but I don't understand some GMs. They just want to flex the flex. Stupid.
And Boiled Egg, good to see you. Boiled Egg, better late than never. And Boiled Egg, you missed Frank's commentary about the beating Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. So just maybe in a 5-second review, Frank, what do you think of the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Oh my God.
it was a little bit more verbal, but you get the point, boiled egg, of
I
what.
only kept the non-verbal just to make it clearer.
Yeah. All right. Well, one of the first segments here is we're going to talk about the panel's going to give us their picks for the top young guns in the NHL, players that are 23 and under. They had to pick one defenseman, one forward, one goalie. But before they do that, we got to take our first break already. It's coming up here. And I want you guys in the chat, who do you think are the best young guns in the league? Anyone 23 or under? If you could pick, a forward, a defenseman, a goalie to put on your team, who would it be for you? So while the break is playing, put it in the chat. Who are your best young guns? And we'll hear from the panel when we get back after the break. Back in 2 minutes' time. We are back after the break. And again, welcome in over 100 people tuning in to the Black Aces podcast. And one of them is probably my nearly 80-year-old mother. I have to give her a shout out. Watching from British Columbia right now. And, she loves you guys. She loves the commentary. She doesn't miss an episode. She loves Frank and loves Eric and of course loves Ryan. Me, I don't know. She can take or leave me, but you guys, she enjoys watching. So hello out there in British Columbia, and to the other 100 plus of you watching. Don't be afraid. Ask questions in the chat. Put in your commentary. Don't be shy. This is the Late Night NHL podcast, and we're going to talk about some young guns. And we're going to start this off with Frank. Now, last week we looked at the franchise players that we would add to our team as a goalie and as a forward or a skater. This week, again, we're looking at young guns, players 23 or under, a forward, a defenseman, and a goalie. And the panel did not make each other aware of who they picked. So this is going to be maybe a surprise for some of you, and we'll find out if there's a lot of fanboying going on here. All right. Good to see you. Finley Dots, welcome. Okay, so we've got some more viewers checking in here. Don't be shy. So, Frank, who are your three young guns that are must-haves for your team?
Yep. So it took me a while to find them because I noticed a lot of players turned 24 this summer. So I kept looking. So I finally got three of them. The first is the forward. I believe I have Jack Hughes. No brainer, 99 points last year. Still on the way up. So it took him a while to get going, but no problem there. Second, my defenseman, which I changed because I found him after. Oh, he's under 23. I had Quinn Hughes, but I had two brothers. I said, New Jersey already has the two brothers. So I saw Rasmus Dahlin was available. My first pick was Heiskanen, but he's another one that turned 24 in July. So I had to go back to the well a few times. So Rasmus Dahlin is just dominant. And Buffalo, big reason why Buffalo is on the way up. And then my goalie, which I thought I mentioned last week, I thought would be 23 or under, but he wasn't. That's Ottinger. So I had to go with Spencer Knight. Goalies are tough, man. Not a lot of them are established at 23 or under. So I had a couple of choices here, but I went with Spencer Knight, and hopefully his OCD is taken care of, and he can have a long, fruitful career. That's why, for those who don't know, that's why he went to the program for the NHL. It was for extreme OCD. So he got treated and all that. So hopefully all that is good. So those are my three picks.
All right. And Boiled Egg weighing in here with picks, agreeing with the Rasmus Dahlin pick. A goalie, he went with Devin Levi, who I think, based on what we've seen so far, are going to be outstanding for Buffalo. And then Connor McMichael, interesting pick there with Connor McMichael.
Boy, he's fanboy and he's Washington fan. Of course, it's going to take a Washington prospect, man. 99 points or no points. Oh.
Yes, Chadwick, we are talking a young gun. So, Chadwick, who are the three young players, 23 or under, that are must-haves on your team if you're GMing a team? Who are you going to put on your team? A goalie, a forward, and a defenseman. So Frank again went with Dahlin. He went with the Jack Hughes and went with Spencer Knight. Of course, Boiled Egg does kind of give an honorable mention to Tim Stutzel, who I agree with. Fantastic young player in the league, and Ottawa's lucky to have him. Hendricks was on the board. All right, Frank.
That's what Boiled Egg. He said he had to go with a cap. I'm just saying Hendricks was still on the board. I'm just having fun with him. Tim Stutzel, I actually thought about. But look, I'm sure my two other panelists, there was a lot of choices, especially at forward. So I can't wait to hear, especially Ryan, if he goes with another John Gibson type.
All right. Well, speaking of fanboys, Ryan, you're up next. And yeah, Sidney Crosby doesn't qualify. John Gibson doesn't qualify. Jordan Eberle and Justin Schultz do not qualify, unfortunately. But being the fanboy you are, I'm sure there's an Oiler on there. Who are your three picks?
I had to go with at least an Oiler for one position. I picked Jack Hughes, Evan Bouchard, and Spencer Knight. I looked long and hard at Stutzel. I wanted to pick him over Hughes, but Hughes' production, you can't say no. You can't pass that guy up, especially since he's not even 23 yet.
And by the way, I left you Bouchard because I was thinking hard about him, and I said I gotta leave something for.
I was looking at Dahlin, and I was like, no, Frank's for sure going to go with Dahlin. I got to go with the hometown boy Bouchard.
I even wrote in my email. I left some stuff for homeboy, a fanboy.
Yeah, Chadwick. We did say Bedard was exempt. We wanted players that had played at least a few games in the NHL, and we're under 23. So yeah, no
I'm
Connor
not even
Bedard.
sure I'd pick Bedard just yet because he's not proven in the NHL.
No, this is basically the time. It's not that he's available to be picked, but it's like next 12 months type thing. And I don't think he comes close to Jack Hughes' 99 points in year one. He'll be a pick and maybe faster than most, maybe in 2 years. But this is like for the upcoming year, who do you think is going to best? And that's why Evan is a good choice because he might pop for over 70, 80 points this year.
Yeah, Evan Bouchard's looking poised to pop. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Playoffs last year. Be silly not to pick him, especially as an Oilers fan. And Spencer Knight, I looked at Levy a little bit, but I had to go with the guy with a little bit more NHL experience, and that's Spencer Knight.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Chadwick agrees with your decisions here, Ryan. So
finally,
you've got someone on board. But
where were you the other week?
Nobody could agree with you last week. Come on, dude.
Chadwick, I think, is a Colorado fan, though. I believe he's from the Denver area. So he's seen a lot of the Oilers over the years in playing the Avalanche. All right. Well, Fred, old man Fred, we've got 2 Spencer Knights so far. Are you going to make it a unanimous 3? Who are your young gun franchise players?
Well, yeah, I think we're gonna agree 100% on the Spencer Knight thing, right? So Spencer Knight. So I will go in a different direction. Spencer Knight is my goalie, but Quinn Hughes is the defense named captain of Vancouver. Kind of the not the sexy brother in the sense that he's not getting the points, but I think whenever, and we do. As an Oiler fan as well, and not to fanboys degree, but as an Oiler fan, certainly we see a lot of Vancouver games, and Quinn Hughes does impress me. He was young, but he shows a poise that I like in defensemen, and obviously his point totals aren't through the roof by any stretch of the imagination, but
no, they are.
But he does.
They are.
You know what?
Almost a point per game this year.
So there you go. So I don't think of him though, Frank, that way. I think of him more like certainly he's on the power play and so on and so forth. And maybe it's because Vancouver has struggled, but I don't see him as that high points total. But as you pointed out, absolutely. Take a look at the stats, and 76 for a defenseman, 7 goals, but 76, that's pretty damn good. So, yeah.
By the way, for his age, he's got the second most points in history for a 23-year-old defenseman, because we think Kel McCarr, but he went to college and he came to the NHL later. And all that, Dahlin might pass him, but right now I think he's second in the history at his age because he's racking up points left, right, and center. Because he started very young, at 19 was his first year. So yeah,
Brian Leach.
Look, I had him. So I had him. Old man Fred, and I changed when I saw Dahlin, but that's a good decision. I can't wait for I saw your forward. I know who it is, but I can't wait to find out who your forward is. And I know why you picked him, because every time we do this, you are like Brian Burke. You like grit, you like truculence, and that's why you picked this guy.
Well, and also I like stats. I mean, I've watched him, and again, it's a gut feeling. I've seen him play the Oilers and just stand out, and against the Leafs. His point totals. When I'm looking at him, he's over 20 goals most of the time. In one season he had 30. So it's someone who stands out for that young age. It's a great team, Carolina. We I think all of us had Carolina on our top 5 for the East. And Yeah, I think he's, now my Ukrainian wife, not to get political because I know Glennie gets a little nervous, but my Ukrainian wife is probably not too thrilled with me choosing a Russian. But at the same time, the kid's a beauty. So
Okay.
that's the way it is. Yeah.
And we have Fussmucker chiming in here with his 3 picks, and he's going with Beniers, Dahlin, and Knight. So Spencer Knight seems unanimous by most people as the best goalie of that
really
age group.
Nobody else playing right now.
Yeah.
I hope the kid comes back, right? Like he did struggle. That's pretty early on to struggle, but hopefully he comes back. So.
Yeah, boiled egg. We said 23 and younger, so technically you're right.
11 days to go.
But if we round down, then we're still within the limits here.
He's
so
turning 24 in 12 days. He's still 23.
He's just upset because we don't have a Washington Capital on there representing the Caps. Okay.
All
Well,
right.
if we go with someone 39 or over, maybe next week we'll have maybe we'll have some of those Washington Capitals next week for you, boiled egg. All right. So again, in the chat, who are your top 3 franchise young gun players? 23, 365 days or younger. Who are your top franchise players? Put it in the chat. Some interesting picks. Svechnikov came into the league on fire, just barnstorming on, having some injury problems, I think, right now. But Evan Bouchard, Quinn Hughes, Dahlin. I mean, all 3 of those defensemen. Who would not love to have any of those 3 defensemen? So great picks. All right. Before we get on to the next segment, again, we do have, I want to preface with, you're not going to win anything tonight. This is like the playoffs. This gets you to the next round. All right. If you want to enter in, put in Young Guns into the chat. And at the end of the show today, I will draw a couple names that will then go on to the next round, and they will be entered in at a later date for a copy of Franchise Hockey Manager 10. Yes, OOTP Developments has been kind enough that when it comes out in November, they are going to gift a couple codes to some of the viewers here. So Franchise Hockey Manager 10, this will get you an entry to win that once it comes out in November. So don't DM me saying, Lap, I won the contest. Where's my code? No. This gets you into the final entry. So put in Young Guns into the chat. At the end of the show, we'll draw a couple names, and those names will go on to qualify for the final draw. All right, before we get on to the next segment, we do have a break coming up. I do want to play the trailer for Franchise Hockey Manager 9.
I want to speak too.
So here is the Franchise Hockey Manager 9. You guys can watch it during the break here. Franchise Hockey Manager 10 will be even better. So we'll be back in 2 minutes' time.
It's time for some world-class hockey. Franchise Hockey Manager 9, officially licensed by the NHL. New this season, keep your team in perfect harmony with the new Harmony system. Deal with player conflicts, the formation of cliques, and complex player personalities. Get more control over your lineup with options like delaying injury treatment and the ability to instantly find out what will make a trade work. Get feedback on which tactics will work for your team. Continue to bring your hockey world to life. .2D game engine improvements execute your tactics more precisely than ever. You've been asking for it, so now Build your own college hockey program with over 60 playable teams. Updated for the 2022-2023 season for every NHL club, as well as international, minor, and junior leagues. Franchise Hockey Manager 9. Create your destiny. All on the only NHL licensed PC game. Releasing November 8th, 2022.
All right, back, and yes, they haven't put out the trailer for the new game yet. So this is the old trailer for FHM 9. Again, it's a simulation game. It's not a console game like you'd find on Xbox or on PlayStation. This is a simulation game, and you get to sim out historical games. You could play Gilbert Perreault against Wayne Gretzky if you want, or you could play with the more modern hockey lineup. So they are officially licensed by NHL. Put your name in for a chance to win, not tonight, but for a chance to get your name entered when it does come out in November. So thank you, Out of the Park Developments, for allowing this hockey podcast to give away a couple copies once it comes out in November. All right, next up, let's see what's going on in the chat here. All right, so Boiled Egg is playing FHM 9 with the Caps in 1974. Oh, wow, that's when they only won 8 games. You're starting low. I hope you're more successful managing them in 1974. Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right, next segment here, we are going to look at the Western Conference Power Rankings. I've asked all 3 of the panelists here to come up with 5 teams that they think are going to be at the top of the Western Conference. They are not ranking them from 1 to 5. They are simply, these 5 teams are going to be at the top. So chat, same thing. Who are your top 5 team Western Conference teams? Put it in the chat. We'll post them up here on the board here. See how close you come to the panel. And stay tuned. The rant will be coming up later. Oh, yeah. You thought last week was spicy? Wait until this week. These guys have something to talk about. No pressure for their rant. All right. First up, in terms of the power rankings, we're going to go with Old Man Fred to start us off here. So give us your 5 Western Conference power rank teams.
Well, as much as I wish that they weren't in my top 5, they are. The Vegas Golden Knights, I think they have to be as part of the top 5. Certainly Dallas is going to be there. Los Angeles, I have a lot of respect for. So I don't dislike the fact that Los Angeles is there. They're a nice young team. We've seen them twice now in the playoffs against the Oilers. They've pushed the Oilers pretty hard. Made the Oilers sweat in that first round. So actually I've got a little bit of a crush, I think, on the Kings and the way they've developed themselves. The Avalanche, they're going to be back. And again, as those who watched last week know, I'm a big Nathan MacKinnon fan. If you're a hockey fan, I don't know how you can't be a Nathan MacKinnon fan. And of course, last but not least, at least I hope not, will be the Edmonton Oilers, because I think, and I can, say this from a local perspective, and probably every NHL city hears this. I'm in baseball. I'm a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, and we have lots of enthusiasm in April, and not so much, in June. But anyway, it's just that they're ready. There's a lot of talk of, we're not just going to go to the conference. We're not doing this. There's a lot of talk that they're ready. They've got the 2 Well, they've got one of the best players, is the best player in the league, and then the other guy's okay. No, he actually is pretty good. But yeah. So anyway, those are my top five. Vegas, there you go. Colorado, Dallas, Edmonton, Los Angeles, and of course Vegas.
All right. Well, next week we're going to do the actual rankings. We're going to go through each division, tell everyone how we think teams are going to rank up. Old man Fred, if you had to pick a underdog, a surprise team that could crack the top 5 in the power rankings, who would that be for you? Would it be a Minnesota, San Jose, and Anaheim, and Winnipeg? Who would be your underdog to have a great season? Because old man Fred, last year we were all down on New Jersey. No one picked New Jersey
They weren't ready. Yeah. No, they weren't ready.
So who would be your New Jersey of this year in the West?
You know what? Well, that's a really you got me kind of you're making me think. So I'm going to say a team that scares me because I think they could come back, and I'm gonna go with, God help me, the Calgary Flames. And if you don't think that's painful, good God, that's painful. So there you go.
Interesting.
It's
All
going to
right.
be painful because I'll have to wear a friggin' Calgary Flames sweater.
Yeah, there you go.
Well,
So,
yeah. If you didn't catch our podcast in the past, Ryan made a bet, and we'll go into that more next week. Ryan, we won't reveal it right now. But Boiled Egg says in no order: Edmonton, Dallas, Colorado, Vegas, and Minnesota.
I wish Boiled Egg had a posted just before I said that because I probably would have leaned towards Minnesota. I wasn't thinking of Minnesota, but good on Boiled Egg. I like that Minnesota.
And same with Fussmucker. Fussmucker said Colorado, Dallas, Edmonton, Minnesota, and Los Angeles. So
I got to stay with what I got.
Am I missing something with Minnesota here? They have a $15 million cap handicap for the next 2 years.
they got a good coach, Everson. They've got some good goaltenders. They've got what's the Kaprasov?
$15 million is a very good second line. Maybe it's
an awesome third line. That's for damn sure.
Awesome third line. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand the love for Minnesota, but I don't know.
But Fussmucker doesn't have Vegas, which to me was shocking. One thing's for sure, Vegas is going to be a top team. They're not going to have a Stanley Cup hangover. Yeah, so I saw Mini, I saw LA. So I had trouble like last week with my 5th pick. So my top 4: Vegas, Edmonton, Dallas, Colorado. And then I had to think long and hard. So I went with Sutter not being there. It's like all the Calgary players are smiling, having fun. Like what? Hockey fun? And what happens when players are having fun and enjoying their jobs? They play better. So everybody had a down year. It was collective, Kadri, Huberdeau, Lindholm. Like everybody had a bad year, and it was the atmosphere. So Sutter, I don't know why they waited till the end of the year. So I think they will bounce back. And remember, right, there's always, we'll see next week, there's always, like I said, 5 teams that turn over. I think Calgary is going to be one of those teams, and I put them in the top 5, but I was hesitating. LA, man, I don't know. Getting Dubois, I think, was good on a player front, but very bad on the chemistry front because Dano was having so much success as a second-line center. And now you push him to third-line center. Is he going to keep the candy of power play? Doesn't seem like it. They gave it to Dubois and all that. And he was not happy in Montreal when he wasn't getting the offensive chances. If he goes back to that role, he's not going to be a happy camper. And then other people are not going to be happy. And it's just chemistry is so important in hockey. Baseball, you can get the prima donna, the Alex Rodriguez, the prima donna that's no good in the room, and you can still win. But in hockey, it's one of the sports that you have to be tight together and win together. So I think that's very, very dangerous. He wanted out of 2 consecutive teams. I don't know how good of a guy he is in the room. So he didn't fix the toxic room in Winnipeg, that's for sure. So I'm just worried about that and the goalie situation. You got a 36-year-old. You sign for $1 million, and you have the career minor leaguer. Tough to put them in the top 5 because of the goalie situation. So that's why I went with Calgary for a rebound.
Great. And your dark horse, you're the team that could surprise?
That's a good question, man. Let me look real quick. In the top 5 or in the playoffs?
Top 5. Who would be the New Jersey of this year?
The only thing that would qualify would be Seattle. So
Seattle.
Assuming Calgary is because if Minnie's there, it's not a surprise. If LA's there, it's not a surprise. I think Seattle is young enough that would be a surprise in the top 5.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Again, if you want to get involved in entering the contest for the contest, put Young Guns in the chat. And I'm going to need everyone just to retype it in again because that tab crashed over the break. So we're going to have to type it in again. So just type it in. If you entered once, enter again, put in Young Guns, and in a few minutes, we'll make that draw. Our final power rankings from Ryan. So I'm guessing you might have Edmonton in your top 5, but I don't know, Ryan. I don't know. I'll leave it up to you to explain.
My top 5 is the same as Old Man Fred's. That's the wrong top 5.
Oh, you noticed, did you?
I think the top 3, I want to kind of keep what I was saying last week with the top 3 in the East, but the top 3 in the West, I believe, is Colorado, Dallas, and Edmonton. I don't know the order just yet. I would like to know the order, and I hope Edmonton's at the top, but we'll see. And then LA and Vegas in the top 5, but I don't think they're in the same category as Colorado, Dallas, and Edmonton. I like Colorado, Dallas, and Edmonton just because of their coming of age core. They're entering the primes of their career. They're only getting better. There's obviously questions with all 3 of them. Maybe not so much with Dallas. Dallas is a solid from head to toe team, but they don't have a lot of that punch. Colorado has that punch with McKinnon. Edmonton obviously has McDavid that storm the league whenever they have the chance. And then LA kind of passing the torch there from the old crew to the newer crew, and they're doing a really good job of it. I mean, teams should be taking notes with how LA's doing it. A couple down years, but bouncing right back really quickly. And Vegas, I put them in there just because they won the cup. I wouldn't be surprised if they're out of it, out of the top 5. If you asked me what the core of Vegas was, I couldn't even tell you. And we played them last year, for crying out loud. But obviously, they're in the conversation.
You need
All
help?
right, and your underdog.
I can help
your
you if you
underdog?
want.
My underdog? My underdog for the top 5, I'd have to go with Seattle. But I wouldn't. No, you know what? No, let's go big. Vancouver. Vancouver.
There you go, Frank. There is your Finn moment of the week. We've been waiting for it. There it is, the Finn moment of the week.
Let's
going
go
Vancouver
big.
as the surprise.
I wouldn't. Well, I would be surprised, but that's why I pick him as a surprise.
All right. I didn't make the picks because I'm just the host here. I'm getting the panel to make the picks. But if I did, I agree with Fussmucker, and I agree with Boiled Egg that I think Minnesota is going to be that team that cracks into the top 5. I think Vegas is going to suffer from injuries and the cup hangover. I don't see Vegas as a top 5 team. I think they'll make the playoffs. I just don't think they're going to be a top 5 team in the West this year. But we'll see. That's the fun of these predictions here. All right. So
Hey,
we've got our
Glenn?
predictions.
Glenn?
Yes.
Did you check your email?
No.
Check your
I did
emails.
not check. You want me to check my email?
Yep.
Okay. I'll check my email. I could imagine it's probably a French salute. That's probably what's in my email there.
No, it's in regards to the rent. So
Oh, okay. All right. Well, the rant, speaking of the rant is coming up. So we've got one last break and then we're going to have the rant. Then we're going to make that draw again, put into the chat, Young Guns into the chat. If you want a chance to win a copy of FHM 10 when it comes out in November. Again, you won't win one if you win the draw tonight. Your name will be put in to the draw though in November. So rant is coming up. We have one last commercial break here. Before we get on to the commercial break, just a reminder that next week is our biggest show of the season so far. We're making all the 2023-24 predictions for each of the divisions. We're even going to pick our 2 Stanley Cup finalists next week. Yeah, I'm going to make the panelists go out on a limb. And we have a special guest joining our podcast next week from Out of the Park Developments. The one, the only, Richard Grisham will be here. He will join the panel and make predictions for all the divisions in the NHL. So back in 2 minutes to close off the show with the rants. See you soon. All right, we are back here to close off the show. We've got Old Man Fred, we've got Lanky Frank, and we have Finn on the Black Aces podcast, episode number 3. And as I said, next week is our big season prediction show. So stay tuned for that, 9:30 Eastern on Monday night. Thank you guys for tuning in today. And again, we have a lot of fun here. We love our hockey, fantasy hockey, real hockey. And we razz each other, we trash talk each other quite a bit, not only on the podcast, but off the podcast too. And it's that time of year. Let the
It's
games
so
begin.
easy when you have Finn on the podcast.
Yes.
You
The
wanted a
baby of
surprise,
the
I gave you a
podcast.
surprise.
And Dragon, good for you to join us. For those of you that don't know, D-Block Dragon is from Germany. He's a German viewer, and has heard of Leon Draisaitl. Knows about Leon Draisaitl. Draisaitl was played hockey in Germany, a little south of where he lives, but does know his German hockey. So good to see you. Good to see you made it. Must be real early in the morning.
The OG German is Olaf Kolzig. Remember
Or
that?
Marco Sturm.
Yep.
Marco Sturm,
I don't know who's older,
Kolzig.
but Kolzig had an impact. He was a goalie for a long time for the Caps.
He was very good.
Uwe Krupp, yeah.
Oh,
Uwe
yeah, that's
Krupp.
even better. Yep.
Yeah.
Way back.
Yeah.
Well, lots
Yeah.
of German, but none better than Draisaitl. He's a cream of the crop.
Yeah, this is name your famous German hockey player. Yeah, there's not too many out there. But yeah, Kolzig was a great goalie for Washington, and Uwe Krupp, Colorado. I think he won a cup with the Colorado Avs.
I think he's
I
an
think he was on
owner,
the team.
Kolzig is the owner of a junior team out west, no?
Oh yeah, I think Seattle maybe might be Seattle.
I don't know,
I think,
but
yeah.
I know there's a goalie that went through the draft and all that, and he thanked Kolzig because he was hands-on, etc. So I think he's the owner of a junior team out west.
Yeah, he was the man for your Caps, just like when we think of Washington Capitals from the 1970s, Mike Bullard is one guy that comes to mind. I'll remember Mike Bullard. For boiled egg, name your old-time Capital player that you remember the most, old man Fred.
Dale Hunter.
Dale Hunter. How about
Yeah.
you, Frank?
That's a good question. I'll say Ryan Walter because of the trade. He came to Montreal. We sent them Engblom and Langway. Langway was a stalwart for years. So all these guys that were involved in the trade, yeah. Boiled eggs said Rod Langway came from Montreal, went over there, and we got Ryan Walter. So I'll say those names.
Right. Okay. Well, we come to that time in the show. We want to try and keep things to an hour, and we're just kind of coming up onto the hour being live here. So it's time for the rants, the 2-minute rants. And going up first today is Finn. So Finn, what's on your mind today in the NHL? Your clock starts now.
I have two things to rant about because I don't think I can rant about either one for 2 minutes, but I want to talk about Anaheim Ducks and their dealings with Trevor Zegras. Short changing what's supposed to be the future of your franchise. They're trying to build a new franchise from the ground up. They're rebuilding, and for them to shortchange a guy like Trevor Zegras and treat him the way he did and make him miss the first little bit of training camp and everything like that because they don't want to shell out an extra $250,000 when they have the cap space for it and it's not going anywhere else because they're rebuilding. Why would you send a signal to the rest of your young organization that you're going to be dollar pinching these young guys when they come up when you have the room for it? It's ridiculous if you're trying to build something fresh from the ground up. So figure it out, Anaheim. And I want to talk about the Oilers because I'm an Oilers fan. And the recent departure of Steve Staios, which everybody saw coming from a mile away. But I did talk about Steve Staios a little earlier this year. I don't think it was on any podcast or anything like that, but it was amongst our group here. I really think the Oilers should have sold the farm on keeping Staios in their organization. He's a young mind in hockey, and it was an obvious decision for replacing Ken Holland when his contract's done up at the end of this year. And why they just, I never heard that they tried to chase him, so I'm just going by the information that I have, and that is if they valued him this much and the guy knows his stuff, why did they just kind of let him go? Why not show him what they can offer tell him that he gets the keys to the kingdom when Ken Holland leaves, and that way hockey in Edmonton would be a little brighter in the future. And it's not saying Ken Holland did a terrible job, because he did a good job, but Staios is the new generation of president of hockey ops / GMs in the NHL, and would have been a smart move to do everything he can to keep him.
All right. And there is your 2 minutes up. Excellent. Good. So Anaheim and Edmonton for the Finn rant this week. Well, old man Fred, I have no clue what each of you are going to rant about before we started today. So you're on the clock. What's on your hockey mind this week?
All right. Okay, so in hockey, and certainly in this part of the world, we talk about kind of gritty hockey players, guys that serve their time, and we call them beauties, right? There's lots of beauties in the NHL, guys that kind of do that little extra. Mark Stone, he falls in that line. He is a beauty. He works hard. He's a good Winnipeg boy. And was awarded a Stanley Cup, and we know he's pretty tough. Too bad that he did a very, very, very classless move this week. What did he do? Well, he got hit. Yeah, it wasn't a great hit, and maybe the guy ran a little bit. One Hayden Hodgson. I even have to look at my notes to know who it is. I apologize for that. I've done a little bit of research on this kid, who's not a kid. He's 27. He's had 6-7 games in the NHL, all with the Philadelphia Flyers over 2 years. The kid's doing the best he can, and he runs Mark Stone. Mark Stone gets up and deals with it. Nothing wrong with that. That's what makes somebody a beauty. You deal with it. You're going to play that little game with me. That's fine. It was the comments afterwards. You don't have to say, oh, I'll probably never play that guy again. Mark Stone, you weren't Mark Stone to begin with. You had to grow into it. This kid is trying. Yeah, if I'm a betting man, probably that's the last time you're going to hear this kid's name on our podcast, because this is not somebody who's going to come up. But you know what? He's got parents. He's got, people that are cheering for him. He gets his one NHL game. Deal with him, but you don't need those bullshit comments that you made. It was a classless move from a fairly classy guy. Grow up, get hit, deal with it. That's what you do in the NHL. I'm out. Thanks.
With 1 second to spare. Very, very good. Yeah. Very classless. Very, very classless. Okay. And that's the beauty of the NHL. Like, as we go through these podcasts, every week there's going to be a story. There's going to be a few big stories. There's going to be things to talk about, whether it's a game, a goal, a hit, a referee, always something to talk about in the NHL. All right. Thank you, old man Fred, for that. All right. And ending off with Lanky Frank. And if you saw the rant last week, Lanky Frank went off about the preseason and things that take place, and the girls that clean the ice in Chicago. He had quite the rant this week. This week, a little bit different. And no, the email boiled egg was not. Let me see if I can find that here. The email Frank sent me was not a dirty pick in a mankini. Oh, no. It absolutely was not, because I would be in the bathroom probably not feeling very well if that was the case. But thank you for planting that image in all of our minds, boiled egg.
Yeah, and don't put the visual up right away. So my rant is around heroes, and what's the definition of a hero? And when we're kids, hockey players are our heroes because we're kids. Mine were Guy Lafleur, Ken Dryden. We all have our heroes from when we were a kid. Ryan Smith for Finn, etc. But when we become adults, they're not heroes anymore. They're idols, they're etc. And this was kind of inspired by my buddy who says, "Oh, Jacques Demers is a hero because he brought us our last Stanley Cup." And I go, no. Heroes are people that save lives. that educate our children, etc. Teachers, policemen, firemen, armed forces, doctors, nurses, etc. Those are the heroes. And it brings me to this person that passed away this week. It's assistant GM of Calgary, Chris Snow. He had Lou Gehrig's disease, and he tackled that disease with courage and determination, made it public to raise awareness. And he finally lost his battle this week. But the important thing of what makes him a hero is his organs were donated to 4 people. So he saved 4 people's lives with his lungs, with his liver, and with his kidneys. And I just want to put the word in perspective that idols and heroes, they're not interchangeable. So I just wanted to say that as a hero as an adult is not the same as a hero. When we're children, they become idols, but heroes are not. Hockey players, baseball players, basketball players, etc. So rest in peace, Chris Snow. Condolences to all his family for the hard-fought battle he did.
Yeah, and we lost another in the baseball world too, knuckleballer Wakefield that passed away this week. So
Brain cancer for him.
Yeah, and of course earlier this year you talked about Lafleur being, one of your idols growing up. He passed away in the last year. Eric or Old Man Fred mentioned Solming last week as well. So way too many of these people that we look up to and do very important things in this world that we've lost recently. So very well said, Frank. I know it's not always about the anger and the rant. Sometimes it's issues like Frank talked about today. So thank you for those words. And the world is mourning the loss. All right. Well, chat, that is going to be it. And again, next week, we are back with our preseason predictions. We're going to predict all divisions. We're going to look at our Stanley Cup finalists. We're going to ask you. So think about it over the next week. Who do you
Hey, Glenn, are you picking this time?
I'm picking. Yeah, I'm going to.
All right. I can't wait for your Tortorella effect part 2. See if it actually happens this time.
Well, Frank, I won that one because you said Philadelphia would come last, and they didn't.
Who fucking knew Columbus would suck so much?
Well, you were wanting to put like $50 on it, and I said no, Frank.
Said,
I don't want to take your money.
Should have said yeah.
Don't want to take your money, Frank.
They did finish 7th, by the way. Philadelphia with the Tortorella effect.
Yeah, but that wasn't the bet. So you snooze, you lose. Sorry.
Next time you say yes when I offer bets like that.
All right, and we will have a 5th with us. Again, Rich Grisham will be here from Out of the Park Developments, a huge New Jersey Devils fan. So we're going to get the fanboy from New Jersey perspective, which will be good because a lot of times it's the Canadian perspective. It's good to have these American perspectives too. He lives in the New Jersey area and will give us his thoughts about how he thinks the Devils are going to do. And take it easy on him. It's not a Mickey Mouse organization anymore. It is a team that is probably going to be on a lot of our top lists next week. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in. All of you that entered in for the FHM 10 copy when it comes out in November. I've got all your names. When we make that draw, when the game comes out in November, your names will be put in there. Thank you for tuning in. This has been the Black Aces podcast, episode number 3. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful evening. We'll see you next week, panel.